improvements he had once praised, increased the steelworkers' workday from 8 to 12 hours, and drove down wages. Carnegie was born in Dunfermline, Scotland in 1835, the eldest son of a failed linen weaver and an entrepreneurially minded mother who kept shop and took in work from local shoemakers to put food on the table. At age 13, after no more than a year or two of formal schooling, young Andrew set sail with mother, father, and younger brother for America. Poor though the Carnegies were, they were supported by his mother's extended family and by the Scottish emigrants who had preceded them to America and Allegheny City, across the Monongahela River from Pittsburgh. Andrew, as he was called, was put to work as a bobbin boy at a cotton mill, but after less than a year in the mill, found work as a telegraph messenger, taught himself Morse code, and was hired as private telegraph operator and secretary to Thomas A. Scott, the Pittsburgh Division Superintendent of the Pennsylvania Railroad. For the next 12 years or so he would work for the railroad. At age 30, Carnegie resigned his position to go into business for himself with his former bosses, Tom Scott and J. Edgar Thompson, the president of the Pennsylvania Railroad. Together, they organized a series of companies, with Scott and Thompson as secret partners, that were awarded insider contracts to supply the Pennsylvania Railroad with raw materials and build its iron bridges. By his early 30s, Carnegie had, with help and investment capital from his friends, accumulated his first fortune in Pennsylvanian oil wells, iron manufacturing, bridge building, and bond trading. His business career was, to this point, not unlike that of other ambitious English-speaking immigrants who made their fortunes by being in the right place at the right time. In the early 1870s, he moved away from the source of his income, Pittsburgh, to New York City. He would continue to oversee his iron and bridge companies from his hotel suite in New York, which he shared with his mother. Day-to-day decision-making was delegated to a succession of partners, including his brother Tom, Henry Clay Frick, and Charlie Schwab. He seldom attended board meetings and visited Pittsburgh only 3 or 4 times a year. For the next 30 years, his workday was confined to a few hours in the morning and an occasional luncheon or dinner, but he accomplished as much in these hours as most men do in a week, and was proud of it. Although he professed to have made the move to New York for business reasons, there were more important considerations behind his decision to live a day's journey by train from his manufactories. He was thrilled with his success as a businessman and capitalist, but far from satisfied. He wanted more from life, and would spend the rest of his days in pursuit of it. His ultimate goal was to establish himself as a man of letters, as well known and respected for his writing and intellect as for his ability to make money. He had as a child and young man read widely and memorized large portions of Robert Burns's poetry and Shakespeare's plays. In New York and London, he continued his self-education. He befriended some of the English-speaking world's most renowned men of letters, among them Herbert Spencer, Matthew Arnold, Richard Watson Gilder, editor of the Century magazine, and Sam Clemens, published regularly in respected journals of opinion on both sides of the Atlantic, wrote 2 well-received travelogues and a best-selling book entitled Triumphant Democracy, and with his Gospel of Wealth essays, established himself as the moral philosopher of industrial capitalism. He spent half of each year in Britain, delegating to himself the role of cultural and political liaison between what he referred to as the 2 branches of the English-speaking race. He became the confidant of Republican presidents and secretaries of state, and liberal prime ministers and cabinet members, and inserted himself into the domestic and foreign affairs of the United States and Great Britain. Meanwhile, his fortune grew and grew. Every major business decision he made appeared, in retrospect, to have been the right one. He was the first Pittsburgh iron manufacturer to move into steel, then the first steel maker to diversify production from steel rails to structural shapes. To his partner's dismay, he plowed most of the company's profits back into the business, integrating horizontally and vertically, modernizing, expanding, and securing steady, cheap supplies of raw materials by buying a majority interest in the H.C. Frick Coke Works and leasing Rockefeller's iron ore mines in the Mesabi Range at a huge discount. By 1901, when he sold his interest in Carnegie Steel to J.P. Morgan, he was arguably the richest man in the world. On retirement,